Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, how long has it been? A year? Yep, maybe even longer than a year. Um, I'm really sorry that it's taken me so long to do a video. I can say a whole bunch of things, but it was I don't want to throw out excuses. So I'm just going to say, you know what, it was kind of my fault. So I'm sorry that I haven't gotten to the videos and it's been a year. Um, but I'm getting started on my videos again. So forgive me. I ask you all to forgive me, and thank you to all my subscribers who decided to stay. And even if you didn't, I get it. Okay. I've been gone for a year, for crying out loud. A little different setting. I'm at my mom's house in New Hampshire again. I'll also post videos and pictures because it's for my birthday and for Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, boop, it's Toothless from, How to Train Your Dragon. And there's no connection with Game of Thrones with the white hair and the dragon. No, it's just I like white hair. You all probably know. Hi! I got this from Japan. I didn't go to Japan, but I got it from this website in Japan. It's called a Karagumi. It's kind of expensive too. It was like $75 for a onesie. And it's got a tail. See, it's got a little tail. I even have wings. Get it going. Okay, I'm just going to keep toothless here. So our topic today is Christians and Halloween. Should Christians participate in celebrating Halloween? I'm just going to say that this is one of the hardest things to, accept or go through or basically know about. I know you love Halloween. I love Halloween. My birthday's the day after Halloween, for crying out loud. Plus, I went out to New Hampshire, New England, which is like the best Halloween place to be, for Halloween. What do Christians do for Halloween? Yep. Let me get into the history first. I will get into a little bit of history, not all the history, because I'm not about to go through all that. History lesson here. Pay attention, kids. Okay, Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival, pronounced Samhain. It's spelled Samhain. And the Celts who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France celebrated their new year on November 1st. November 1st is my birthday, just so you know. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest, and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead become blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrate Samhain, when it is believed that the ghost of the dead return to the earth. And Halloween in America. Celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief system there. Halloween was much more common in Maryland and the southern colonies. Colonial Halloween festivities also featured the telling of ghost stories and mischief making of all kinds. If you're going to mischief make over there. Halloween is real and a sacred day for those who follow Wicca. The Celtic belief of spirits being raised is current, along with the worship of, Samhain, and which is the Lord of Death, according to this article here. Both are promoted as something to embrace that day. Halloween represents an opportunity to embrace evil, devilish, and dark side of spiritual world. For those basically who follow Wicca and do all those things, for the moon and covens and warlocks, that basically male witches are called warlocks. There are a few things that come to mind when we think of Halloween. Dressing up in costumes, carving jack-o'-lanterns, and consuming lots of candy. Candy's amazing. Candy is addicting. I know personally. So, although it's fun to dress in disguise and collect treats, there's much more to Halloween than many realize. The history of the holiday goes back many, many years, and it's even more wicked than you might think. The word literally means hallowed evening, and as known to early Europeans, celebrators as All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Eve, the early pagan holiday of Samhain, involved a lot of ritualistic ceremonies to connect to spirits, as the Celts were polytheistic. While there isn't a lot of detail known about these celebrations, many believe that the Celts celebrated in costume, enjoyed feasts, and made lanterns by hollowing out gourds called jack-o'-lanterns. Over time, as Christianity took over, the pagan undertones of the holiday were lessened. Basic traditions of the holiday remained part of pop culture every year. They simply evolved and modernized. The mystic rituals of earlier times evolved into more lighthearted fun and games. Apple bobbing, for example, became popular as fortune-telling games on Hallows Eve. Apples would be selected to represent all of a woman's suitors, and the guy, well, the apple is the guy, she ended up biting into supposedly represent her future husband. Whatever woman would bite into an apple and say, "This is my man." I wish it was that easy. Okay, in the late 1800s, there was a move in America to hold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. At the turn of the century, Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the day. Parties focused on games, foods of the season, and festive costumes. Festive costumes. So the costumes, they began as earnest tributes to saints. The tradition likely fell out of favor at some point of the saints, until young Scottish and Irish pranksters got the idea to dress up in scary-looking garb again as a way to spook unsuspecting neighbors. And just like that, thanks to these local hooligans, Halloween costumes became scary, spooky, funny, and creative at all the same time. Halloween today obviously remains very, very popular in America, but it is also likely across the world. But the Puritans were disapproving of the holiday's pagan roots. Puritans were like part of the Salem witch trials, and were very, 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 very conservative. And they're the ones who did the witch trials in Salem. They didn't take part in the celebrations. Once Irish and Scottish immigrants began to arrive in America in greater numbers, the holiday made its way back to the zeitgeist, which I don't know what the hell that means, actually. It's estimated by the early 20th century, Halloween was celebrated across North America by the majority people. And this year, once again, will be the same thing. Also, like housing decorations, haunted houses, attractions, stuff like, like Knott's Scary Farm or Knott's Berry Farm, where I live in California. They do like these special events where people dress up in scary costumes and scare people, and they go through the mazes and stuff like that. So what's the deal with black cats? Why are black cats also a big thing for Halloween? It all started with the Pilgrims in the Plymouth colony, because Plymouth Rock in Maryland was the first Americans basically to arrive from England, thus New England. The Puritan Pilgrims distrusted anything associated with witches and sorcery, including black cats. They actively persecuted black cats. It became a practice to burn black cats in Shrove Tuesday to protect the home from fire. So they used to burn cats. I don't know if they're alive or if they're dead. Hopefully dead. I doubt it, though. After the anti-witch zeal, the Puritans and the whole Salem witch trials, had subsided in the colonies, black cats had been thoroughly cemented in popular legends alongside witches. Decorations also was Halloween symbols with black cats and stuff like that to add a frightful, unnerving ambience to their front steps. Their green eyes spooking trick-or-treaters. And yeah, it was also associated with demons, and devils, because they had like, they're all black and their eyes were like, this really pretty green and yellow. I don't think even people very much know about cats. They used to be worshipped, in Egypt and things like that. So lots of occult and like history to black cats in particular. So what does that mean? Huh? So what does the Bible have to say about Halloween? Let's look up some verses and just, get a hint of what Jesus and God says, okay? In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 through 18, I'm going to read. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ be with Belial, basically an occult? Or what part hath he believeth with an infidel? Sorry, this is from the King James Version. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out of among them, and ye be separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, said the Lord Almighty. Don't mess with the unbelievers and their ideals. You don't want to be yoked with unbelievers to begin with, because they kind of like, some Christians backslide, or they get into the worldly, things because they feel like they're missing out or whatnot. It's saying to be careful who you hang out with, and be careful what things you celebrate, especially Halloween. Because Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 9 through 13. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritualist, or consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 through 21. The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity, and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22. Reject every kind of evil. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of the dark, and against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms. This is a good lesson that Saul he went to mediums to ask about about the dead Samuel. Okay, so 1 Samuel chapter 28, 3 through 25. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him, and buried him in his town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spirits from the land. The Philistines assembled and came up at Shunem, while Saul gathered all Israel and set up camp in Gilboa. Then Saul saw the Philistine army. He was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. Saul then said to his attendants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her." "There is one in Endor," they said. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. "Consult a spirit for me," he said, "and bring up for me the one I name." But the woman said to him, "Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?" Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this." Then the woman asked, "Who shall I bring up for you?" "Bring up Samuel," he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Don't be afraid. What do you see?" The woman said, "I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth. I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth." "What does he look like?" he asked. "An old man wearing a robe is coming up," he said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel. He bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Samuel had said to Saul, Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I am in great distress," Saul said. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do." Samuel said, "Why do you consult me now that the Lord has departed from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done what he predicted through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to your neighbors, to David. Because you did not obey the Lord or carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalekites, the Lord has done this to you today. The Lord will deliver both Israel and you into the lands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines." Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day or all that night. When the woman came to Saul and saw that he was greatly shaken, she said, "Look, your servants have obeyed you. I took my life in my hands, and I did what you told me to do. Now please listen to your servant and let me give you some food so you may eat and have the strength to go on your way." He refused and said, "I will not eat." But his men joined the woman in urging him, and he listened to them. He got up from the ground and sat on the couch. The woman had fattened calf at the house, and she butchered at once. She took some flour, kneaded it, and baked bread without yeast. Then she set it before Saul and his men, and they ate. At that same night, they got up and left. Okay, so what does that mean for us? And since we don't really want to celebrate or be part of the occult or be part of, the whole witch and goblins and trickery and, Satan worship, basically. I like to dress up, as you can tell. I just like to dress up, and it's kind of just like innocent fun, but I don't like the whole horror. I don't like dressing up as like zombies. I don't like dressing up as like anything with like blood. I'll admire it from a distance, but I don't usually do that myself because I just think it's like, it's a bit much just to scare people. I scare people like kids, but I don't mean to scare kids. All know this, Gothic people might know this. We scare children. Those who celebrate Halloween are like very unaware of its roots or unintentionally promoting the world, kind of like the evil world where Halloween kind of started with like witches and druids and all that other Celtic stuff. That's kind of interesting. It is interesting, I'm going to be honest, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to, I see it like a glass, and I don't cross that glass, and I don't go that far. But that's just me. But Halloween can be a hands-on learning experience for Christians and God's people. God keeps them held powerless according to his will. Christian Halloween and All Saints' Day come together in purpose full unity to the one protects and covers the other. It is a time for the gospel to devour the ghouls. For the gospel to devour the ghouls, okay? There's nothing evil about a Christian dressing up as a princess or a superhero or a cute little dragon with white hair. Or going around the block for candy. There are things about Halloween that should be avoided. If you choose to allow your kid to participate in Halloween, like, trick-or-treating, little events, like haunted houses, just be careful. Don't take them to like the big kid, big scary Halloween stuff. It gets kind of evil, where it's just like you see all these hanging bodies and like red and the fire. Like sometimes people have fire, like fake fire. It's crazy what they come up with, like all these crazy Halloween decorations. Some of them are really cool. Some of them are cool, I'm not gonna lie, but it's just like it's kind of creepy and evil looking, if you get my meaning. But that's just me, coming from me, okay? But just be careful. If you got kids, I don't have kids yet, but I do want them eventually. But this is what I'm gonna teach them, and this is also a learning lesson for me because I love Halloween. Many churches around the country host alternatives like family fun nights or events on Halloween or near Halloween date. These festivals or events incorporate costumes, but in a godly environment. They're promoted as safe options for families, ideal for those concerned about their children wandering dark neighborhoods at night. That's another thing, dark neighborhoods with their kids. Especially on Halloween, like the whole occult thing with the witches. You don't want your kids to be separated at all. And it's a big no-no. You don't want your kids to be alone on Halloween. And be very, very careful. Some provide a clear faith focus for their events, while others take the opportunity to simply connect with their communities in a positive way. Some churches go all out featuring Christian concerts, food vendor booths, and carnival rides. That's fun, right? I mean, like, you're still participating in a holiday, and it's like get together with Christian people and people like-minded and have like the same type of heart that you do. And which is always fun, but it's just the scary occult aspect won't particularly be there, or it won't be there at all. They might just celebrate the saints and just talk about the Bible and things like that, and also just innocent fun. No. Actually, let me fix this. My hair is like being really annoying yet again. So have fun this Halloween, and remember to just be careful and try not to be part of the occult, especially Gothic Christians. We want to watch out for these things. And we might have a lot of friends who are part of it, the occult, and celebrate these things. They might be Wiccan. And it's not bad to be Wiccan. I mean, I'm not hating on those who are wicked. We agree to disagree. Part of Satan's plan to gather as many souls as he possibly can. And a lot of people don't realize it because it's so shrouded. Like I said, lovelies, have a good Halloween and keep God and Jesus in your thoughts and your heart, and pray and repent every single night. And just to keep things, good, and you're talking to him, you want to keep a personal relationship with God, and the rest of these things won't even touch you. They'll be afraid of you. And if you have friends who are part of the occult, just your boundaries. Don't be mean, but you know your boundaries, because we don't want to be mean to because these are our brothers and sisters in spirit, regardless of what they follow or what they practice or what their ideals are. Those are your brothers and sisters. Have a good Halloween and have a good Saints Day. Regardless of what you celebrate, just be safe and conscious of what you're doing and what you're celebrating and what you're eating. I will see you guys when I see you. I mean, I don't know when I'll be making a new video, but I'll try to make it more often than, say a year. Forgive me for that, and I thank all of you, even my new subscribers. Thank you, and God bless. Bye.